Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So, in honor of Pride Month, I decided to start putting together a series of videos exposing the truth about homosexuality. Many people have started to understand the horrible truth about transgenderism, but unfortunately, many people still support homosexuality, even going so far as to say that transgenderism is a form of internalized homophobia, when actually, homosexuality and transgenderism are simply different stages, or progressions, of a deep wound to a person's gender identity. We can say that homosexuality is like stage 1 or stage 2 of a type of cancer, while transgenderism is stage 4 of the same type of cancer. It's literally just a more severe progression of the same disorder. So, for this first video, I'd like to read for you all some quotes from Dr. Lorraine Day. Dr. Lorraine Day is an orthopedic trauma surgeon who worked in San Francisco for over 20 years, and as a result, treated thousands of homosexual patients who frequently came into her emergency room after having homosexual sex. I will be reading some quotes from her book on homosexuality, which I will link in the description. In her book, she refutes the false claim that homosexuals were born this way. Homosexuals often say they were born this way. They claim to know this because their earliest memories are of them knowing they were different. Yes, they were different, but as we shall see, it's not because they were born that way, genetically. It's because the psychological traumas that cause homosexuality often happen before age 3. I'll be focusing mainly on male homosexuality in this video, but I'll be exposing lesbianism in future uploads. So, let's get into some quotes. I know from experience the destructive effects of the homosexual lifestyle, a disaster so horrific that the average American often cannot or will not believe it. In newspapers, television, magazines, books, and movies, homosexuality is not only considered normal, but almost superior to heterosexuality. Aren't homosexuals just like everyone else, but maybe just more sensitive, artistic, charming, and caring? The mass media has been very effective in selling this lie to the public through TV sitcoms, advertisements, magazine and newspaper stories, editorials, and finally, legislation that forces Americans to accept the homosexual lifestyle as not only normal, but even supposedly desirable. But that assessment of homosexuality is far from the truth. Homosexuals are not born that way. Homosexuality and lesbianism are developmental aberrations that reflect abnormalities in many aspects of that person's life, even long before he or she reaches puberty and becomes interested in sex. Homosexuality is not primarily a sexual problem. The psychological problems start much earlier. Only later do the severely destructive sexual behaviors, destructive to themselves and to each other, become apparent. If you are a parent, a mother, or a father, counseling your son on a future career, would you encourage him to take a job that would decrease his life expectancy by 30 years? Give him only a 9% chance of living to reach old age? Put him in a situation where he is 87 times more apt to be murdered than a man not in his occupation? Make him 35 times more likely to commit suicide? Make it virtually impossible for him to have children and a long-term, loving, and supportive marriage? Increase his chance by possibly 100 times of getting a severe intestinal infection that leads to colostomy. Increase his chance by many thousands of times of getting AIDS. I'm sure you would not recommend any occupation even half as dangerous for your son as the one I just described. But I did not describe an occupation. I described the consequences of male homosexuality. What causes male homosexuality? Aren't homosexuals born that way? In the psychoanalytic literature, male homosexuality has long been understood to be a reflection of gender identity deficit, a lack of bonding between the father and his son at a very young age, before the age of 3, resulting in the child's deficit in his gender identity, the identity of his maleness. This is usually the result of a father being physically absent from the child's life, or being physically present but emotionally and psychologically absent from the son's development. In other words, the father may be present in the house, but leaves the nurturing of his young son primarily to the mother. That's why it's so important that fathers of newborns don't leave all the parenting up to the mother until the child is old enough to be of interest to the father, old enough to participate in the things the father likes to do, such as sports activities. Homosexuality is a developmental problem that is almost always the result of problems in dysfunctional family relations, particularly between father and son. As a result of failure with the father, the boy does not fully internalize male gender identity and develops homosexually. This is the most commonly seen clinical model. In the course of the child's life, every significant developmental lesson has its critical period of receptivity. These periods of heightened awareness appear to have a biological basis. Receptivity to gender identity also has a critical period, after which the lesson will not be easily learned. Most researchers agree that the critical period for gender identification occurs before the 3rd year. Within that period, the time of greatest receptivity appears to be the second half of the 2nd year. For males, the presence of a good, loving father during development is probably the best proof against homosexual development. I can think of no case of homosexuality where such a father has been present in the early childhood years of development. Homosexuals consistently describe the father either as a weak, shadowy, and distant figure, or an angry, cold, and brutalizing one. We have come to the conclusion that a constructive, supportive, warmly related father precludes the possibility of a homosexual son. In the majority of cases, male homosexuality is caused by a lack of bonding with the father's emotional and psychological absence, because even though present in the home, he spends very little time with his young son and does not connect, or he may be demanding and abusive. A significant number of fathers leave the early rearing of the children, both girls and boys, to the mother. Only when the young boy is old enough, usually age 4 or 5 or older, to participate in things that the father enjoys: baseball, football, swimming, sporting events, fishing, hunting, etc., does the father get involved. Unfortunately, homosexuality is usually set by the age of 3, precisely because of the lack of bonding between the father and his young son. Interestingly, homosexuality seems rarely to occur if the father is not present because of serious illness, death, or some other explainable and appropriate reason. The child understands that he has not been rejected deliberately by his father. In other cases, the child has normally bonded with the father, but is at a later time sexually molested by a man, such as a relative, family friend, or a stranger. The child has been violated, humiliated, and no longer feels worthy or comfortable in the heterosexual community. Consumed with guilt, he may feel that the encounter was his fault, a secret that he shares with no one. He may feel that no woman will be attracted to him. In addition, he has also been exposed to the thrill-seeking, exciting, no-holds-barred debauchery of the homosexual community and becomes sexually addicted. The incidence of homosexuality will continue to increase. The destruction of the family continues at breakneck speed in America. Now, over 46% of all American marriages end in divorce. The instability in the homes in which children are now being raised cannot be overestimated. Furthermore, the percentage of births to unmarried women has steadily increased in the past few decades. This obviously means that little boys, particularly, will be raised without their father. Most will have no role model for maleness and will receive no nurturing and attention from their father, a perfect setup for an explosion of dysfunction in the home, furthering the inadvertent consignment of young boys to growing up as homosexuals. How soon do homosexuals understand they are different? Homosexuals, particularly male homosexuals, know they are different from a very early age, frequently from as young as 3 to 5 years old. For that reason, a few may believe they were born that way. But most homosexuals, when speaking privately, will confirm a lack of bonding with their father at a very early age. Privately, they will admit they were not born as homosexuals. At this early stage, this differentness of the male homosexual is perceived by him mostly in non-sexual ways, as the child is very, very young, long before puberty and the arrival of sexual urges. He feels different because he is more comfortable with girls than with boys. Usually, he is not particularly interested in male-type sports. He is often more artistic, aesthetic, and musical, and the musical instrument to which he is attracted is often the piano, an instrument designed to be played alone. Frequently, he is more attached to his mother than his male heterosexual siblings and other boys his age. There are, however, a few cases, and unfortunately the number is increasing as society continues to deteriorate, in which the individual does choose homosexuality or bisexuality just to be trendy, or because he is just seeking thrills. But in the vast majority of cases, homosexuality, both male and female, is not a choice. It has been thrust upon him or her by dysfunctional parents. Why does the homosexual community publicly resist these facts? The homosexual community publicly resists and ridicules these established facts, even though privately they admit them. The homosexual community not only resists the fact that hundreds, possibly thousands of homosexuals have changed their orientation to heterosexuality, but they belittle, ridicule, and aggressively attack all those, including members of their own homosexual community, who understand this. As we will see, the public relations campaign to force the public to accept homosexuality as normal and natural, even though it is neither, is extremely well planned, highly organized, and abundantly funded, not only by gay and lesbian organizations, but by numerous corporations, as well as all levels of government. These massive changes in the attitudes of society didn't just happen. They have been manipulated, orchestrated, and finely tuned by an immense and high-level network that would shock the average American. So, that is it for the quotes in this video. Keep in mind that the book itself goes into much more detailed explanations on this topic, including with sources for all her statements. This short video is just meant to give you all a general understanding of the fact that the Born This Way narrative is a lie, a very well-orchestrated lie. What Dr. Day has shared with us here is that the main psychological wound that is at the root of most cases of homosexuality is the lack of true connection, affection, and love from the biological father. So, all the men out there who think love, affection, attention, and care of their little babies is just woman's work, or beneath them, are actually severely harming their children psychologically and setting the stage for them to be groomed into homosexuality and transgenderism by the homosexual community. By the way, children not only need the genuine love of their fathers to grow up psychologically whole, healthy, and heterosexual, they also need that father to genuinely love and care for their mother in a monogamous marriage relationship, which I will get into in upcoming videos. Also, child predators can sense the deep longing for the love and affection of an older man in the boy who is at risk for becoming a homosexual, which is why so many of these boys who are already being neglected by their own fathers get sexually abused by older boys and older men, and in turn become homosexual themselves as a response to that trauma. It is just incredibly sad. Remember, there is no substitute for the genuine love and care of a biological father, and when that love and care is missing in any way, there are severe consequences for the psychological development of a child. I hope this video opened your eyes to the lies of the LGBT agenda. I'm only getting started, and I'll be sharing quite a bit more shocking information on homosexuality in my upcoming videos. I have plenty more to share on this topic, so if you found this video informative, please subscribe to this channel and like this video, and please make sure to share this video with others. I'm only one person, and I need your help to get the truth out there. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.